Hello dear tea friends from around the world. Welcome to a new tea class about tea and literature. I'm your guest, your host. I'm Stéphane Erler from France originally, but now in Taiwan. I'm the founder of the Tea Masters blog and the tea-masters.com tea boutique. Last lesson I did about Proust, In Search of Lost Time, did twice as many views as usual. I'm really super proud of your interest in literature. That's why I've renamed a little bit the name of this class. And we are talking about, this time, not just one book, Emperor Huizong, but two books. I'm also talking about Shui Ruzhuan because I'm starting to read this book, not in Chinese, in French, at water's margin. One translation was done by Pearl Buck, but there are lots of versions for this old Chinese novel. It was first a story that was told in the markets by entertainers among normal people, folks, and so it was more folk tale that evolved in the time of Emperor Huizong during the Song dynasty, at the end of the Northern Song dynasty. I've talked about it a few weeks ago about this biography of Emperor Huizong. That day I was a bit anxious to get my story right about Emperor Huizong, and I did not dare to make a Song Dynasty tea. Today we take this class a little bit less seriously, so I will demonstrate this Song Dynasty style to you so that you can see how it is done. If you are new to tea, this will be a new discovery for you, because Song style is very seldom performed. If you know about Japanese tea and the Japanese there are different schools, Ura Senke, Umoto Senke, etc., the three Senke, then you will notice that there are some similarities with the Japanese way, but also some major differences. And so I wanted to demonstrate this for you. To prepare this class, I asked ChatGPT, is there something funny, is there a nice anecdote to say about Song Dynasty tea? And ChatGPT, he told me, well, he does not know any funny stories about Song Dynasty tea, but he knows that there is a tea war, a tea battle. I think he said it's a tea war in Song Dynasty times. So I asked him, like if I did not know the answer. So how do you win this war of Dianzan, in this Song Dynasty style? And then ChatGPT 4 told me, sorry, I don't know about it. So he knew there is a war. Actually, it's a more competition between two people who prepare the tea. And so it's called Dian in Chinese, Dian for whisking, so it's a whisk war. And the goal in this whisk war is to have the thickest foam. You will see in a few moments, I will show you how I'm making foam with matcha, green tea powder. And the goal really is to get the foam as thick as possible. And so the winner is the one who has the foam that is the thickest. Now, how do we know who has the thickest foam? Well, the way to find out is to wait when, well, first both are whisking the tea, and then when they finish at the same time to whisk, we wait, and we wait until the first one has the bubbles of foam that disappear, and we can start to see the tea. Then we know, oh, this person has lost. The one whose foam stays the longest and does not let the brew appear, this guy is the one who wins. So I will, maybe this sounds a little bit complicated, I will show you in a moment. And so I thought, well, this also shows that the knowledge base so far of ChatGPT, even 4, is still quite low. Huh? He does not know so much about tea, so don't. And also, I see now it tells you which sources he's using, and unfortunately for him, he does not use my sources, so that's where you still get a lot of more information than ChatGPT. So if you want to be more intelligent than artificial intelligence, go on my blog and read more about the tea culture there. Something else that struck me when we talk about the Emperor Huizong, the thesis of this book, of this whole biography by Patricia Buckley Ebry, is that Emperor Huizong is not the cause for losing to the Jurchen. Why did the Song dynasty in the north lose half of its territory to the barbarians from the north? Many people question the skills of Emperor Huizong and say, oh, he was just interested in arts, he liked to build things, to build temples, and did not have so much interest in government, and that's why he's to blame for the loss. But when preparing for this lesson, I also asked ChatGPT to write me a poem about, and I told him, oh, please write me a poem about, I'm drinking tea in a black glazed tea bowl in the spring, in the afternoon, and I'm whisking this tea, Song Dynasty style. ChatGPT, please write me a poem about this. And to my dismay, the poem that he came up is, I'm drinking tea, Song Dynasty style, in a black tea bowl, oh, and I'm savoring the day, or I'm savoring the moment. So he just added one sentence about feeling comfortable and savoring the moment, and for him this was a poem. So, and this is one of the ways that we try to measure the intelligence of this artificial intelligence, and where we find that actually between ChatGPT 3 and ChatGPT 4 there were already big improvements, but in this case so far for me they seem still quite limited. However, Emperor Huizong, he was really very good at poetry, and so for me this shows that poetry is one of these ultimate skills of intelligence that even computers have the most hard time to come up with. So to have an emperor who is skilled in art, in appreciation, and even in drawing, in calligraphy, and in poetry, he was quite intelligent to master all these skills. And these skills, probably, his intelligence, he could also use it to choose whom to trust, who to appoint, which ministers can work well together, and it's not so easy to stay on top of such a big country like Song Dynasty China for over 20 years. And so it does take a lot of intelligence and skills. So in this point, looking at ChatGPT 4, really I'm thinking that the author here is quite right, that Emperor Huizong was skilled and intelligent, and it's not a lack of intelligence that caused his downfall. It's not because he was completely hands off the government that it fell down. His approach to government was much more almost Tocquevillian. He wanted to have a good separation of powers. I'm the head of state, I'm the emperor, and I'm responsible to the gods. He had a strong connection with Taoism and performing rituals for. He saw this as his job, and governing the daily function, the daily office, how much money to spend on public works, on the army, how to feed the poor, etc. This was much more something that he preferred to give power to his ministers, especially Caijin, and did not get so much involved in these kinds of affairs. So, of course, he was responsible for everything, and at the end there were mistakes that were done, but the mistakes that were done were more like a group mistakes. It was all the ministers who proposed probably a wrong plan, and he went along, so that was still also his mistake, but he went along with some intelligence, not because he was in the arts and did not want to take a role in it. He really saw that he had to put a line and not take part of it in order for this government to function better, because he had to focus on another aspect of being a ruler. So these were some thoughts that came for this class, and now let me perform at last this Song Dynasty tea. We start by preheating the bowl. So I have in my ewer boiling water. Right now it's very hot water only. I'm also moistening my whisk, my bamboo whisk. Like this, the bamboo is less likely to break when it's working. Okay, I'm emptying my water because I'm going to refill it with this boiling water here from a silver kettle. And the reason I'm not using the silver kettle to pour is, you can see here by opening the mouth of the kettle is quite large, the flow is quite large, whereas the ewer I'm using here has a very nice fine spout, which was created by David Louveau and in the style of the Song Dynasty. The difference in this ewer style, in the Tang Dynasty, the spout was quite large, and progressively it became slimmer, longer during the Song Dynasty, because it had to be more precise for this type of tea preparation, and we'll see that just in a few moments. So now I'm using simply paper to dry and to clean it. It was quite clean before already. Now this is something that is done with much more grace in the Japanese ceremony. With put my green tea. We are past 10 in the evening, so I don't want to make it too strong. Yesterday, to prepare for this class, I did some practice, and then I had trouble falling asleep in the evening. So definitely you have to be careful with this type of powdered green tea. It is very, very strong, very powerful. So I really recommend that you drink it in the morning, not in the evening, unless you want to have a white night. If you don't want to sleep, then it's okay. So now I'm going to pour directly and continuously whisk the tea. This is really the big difference between the Japanese way and the Song Dynasty style way. First, making a paste with it. I can pour a bit faster. Now, when it's high enough, I can start to whisk. Okay, I find out I'm still a bit don't have enough foam, so I'm going to continue a bit without pouring. Best would have been to finish when you stop pouring, but what is really even more important is to completely dissolve the powder in the water, and you can do this best by pouring, by whisking now. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Did not use too many, voilà, too much matcha because I wanted to avoid sleeping problems. I put this on this stand, it's easier. Show it to you. See the nice foam. So the best foam is the thickest with small bubbles. And now in case of a battle of Dianzan, of Song Dynasty tea, imagine there is somebody else who was whisking at the same time as me, and we stop now also at the same time. The one who would win would be the one where the foam stays the longest, where you cannot see the tea itself under because the bubbles are still there. So now the bubbles, of course, with time are going to explode and become less and less. So in theory, we would wait 10-15 minutes until the foam disappears, and the first one where it's possible to see the tea liquor is the one who loses, and the other one wins. Okay, so we are not performing a battle today, so I can drink this foam. This is also the smoothest. It's like a cappuccino, but with tea. Very sweet. Okay, and now I've drank enough of the foam that you can see now tea without the bubbles. So this is, if we had waited, this would be a sign that I've lost because the bubbles have disappeared here and there. So the other thing I wanted to tell you about is that I'm starting to read Shwerudzwan at Water's Margin this week. Prologue and first 2 chapters. This is based on French translation, so I'm reading it in French. If you are interested, you can also read at the same time and post maybe your thoughts. We have created a group on Telegram with Olivier de la Salle, who is coordinating this. He has also done the same with Proust. He's the one who motivated me to read Proust with him and his group. And so now we're reading At Water's Margin. And what is interesting is since this book happens during the time of the Northern Song Dynasty, the knowledge of the Chinese history really helps to contextualize the story. And I read it. I read this book in a shorter version almost 20 years ago, and at that time I did not really appreciate the story as much as now, because I did not know enough about Chinese history and how important this period in time was for the Chinese. It's a paradox. China was super strong, super wealthy, more advanced than any other nation on earth, and yet they were inferior in terms of military power to their neighbors in the north. First the Xixia, then the Liao Khitans, and at the end the Jurchen under the Jin dynasty. And they lost half the country under Song Huizong, and they had to take refuge in the south in Hangzhou. That was maybe a nice thing for those who escaped, but for those who were taken prisoners by the Jurchen, this was really a terrible time. And a lot of thought, I think, has been put into the country's consciousness to avoid a repeat of such a humiliation, such a catastrophe. Even though it happened again, the Southern Song would also fall prey to the barbarians of the Mongols, and then whole China was taken over by Kublai Khan, and it became the Yuan dynasty. We still gave it a Chinese name, but actually they were ruled by complete barbarians, by Mongols at that time. So this book, At Water's Margin, is going to deal with this time of history. It's going to be about righteousness, about knights working for ideals, but sometimes also for their own pocket, a bit like Robin Hood, fighting both the government and the barbarians. So I'm really excited to start a new adventure, and I hope that you will also find some interest in my accounts that I will continue to post about tea and literature, because I think tea is not just a beverage with a rich culture, a long history, but it's also a way to open the door to the Chinese culture and better understand it, especially now that it becomes so powerful again, at the same time with some weaknesses. So to understand this history and this culture, I think is a good way for a better understanding of this Chinese Renaissance, and also the threats that are posed by this awakening of a new giant. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you found this interesting. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down. You can also give me, but then please give me a comment why, and I will see you next week again. Bye bye.